Yo, what's up guys, it's Aptrix here. Welcome to the Nyushu Nintendo Switch Emulator Android low-end device test. So right here I have the iQOO Z6 Lite and right here is the Redmi K50i. This device has a Snapdragon 4 Gen 1 processor which is pretty old, and this device has MediaTek Dimensity 8000 processor. In today's video we'll be testing out how well does this brand new Nintendo Switch emulator work on low-end Android devices. This has Mali GPU, this has Adreno GPU but very old one. So let's start off by testing out these emulators. To start off we'll be testing out the Nyushu Emulator on my iQOO Z6 Lite. So in CPU's head you guys will be able to see it has the Adreno 619 GPU. So let's open the Nyushu Emulator and start setting it up. So right here you guys will be able to see I have set up the Nyushu Emulator on this low-end Android device, and the great part about having an Adreno GPU is the fact that you can add custom graphics driver. So for today's video we'll be using the Mesa Turnip Adreno driver revision 19. Now with the help of this graphics driver the performance will be improved and all the graphical issues will also be fixed. So let's head back. Afterwards go to settings. You will be able to notice that the UI is pretty laggy. Let's disable the limit speed percentage option. Afterwards dock mode should be disabled as well. In terms of graphics, let's set the accuracy level to normal, and in resolution Nyushu Emulator offers 0.25 graphics resolution, best suited for low-end devices or devices with Mali GPU. That's what we'll be testing out on the Redmi K50i as well. Aspect ratio stretch to window, enable force maximum clocks and asynchronous shaders. Let's go back. In terms of debug, native code execution has been enabled, and yeah, that's going to be the setup of Nyushu Emulator with the best settings. We'll be using the same settings on the Redmi K50i. Anyways, let's start off by testing the first game, which is going to be One Piece Unlimited World Red. Now both of these devices have 6GB of RAM, but the amount of RAM which is free on them is very low. Like literally even a 4GB RAM Android device from 2018 can beat the amount of RAM that is available. But just take a look at this. We were getting good FPS and the texture is completely messed up, but you guys will be able to see the game just froze. So let's try restarting the game and see if it works this time or not. The audio output was working and the 0.25 graphics resolution really works. As you will be able to see, the textures are very low, and this time we are able to go in game, which is pretty great, which means that it was a bug with the emulator. The game actually works on a Snapdragon processor Android device. The main difference between this low-end device and a device with Dimensity processor is the fact that this is an high-end Android device, but because it has a Mali GPU it cannot be considered as high-end device in terms of emulation. But you will be able to see that we are getting almost 90 FPS while emulating this game, but once again the game has froze. So I think it's a bit too much for this device because it doesn't have enough RAM. So we'll be trying out our next game, which is going to be Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. Now I have tested out Yuzu Emulator on this low-end Android device previously. If you guys want to see how the performance of this emulator compares to it, then you can watch the video on the iCard above. And here's our today's Google Play Store gift card redeem code giveaway, which is coming to an end pretty soon. So be sure to subscribe, turn on all notifications to possibly stand a chance to win the next few Google Play Store redeem codes. You'll be able to see at the top left corner we are getting almost 50 FPS during the cutscene, which is a huge upgrade. As you guys can see, our game is running properly at almost 50 to 80 FPS, which is pretty stable. My device isn't getting hot at all, so there is no overheating issues, at least on low-end Android devices. So there we go. Here's the moment of truth. The game is about to begin. We'll find out how well does it actually work. Let's go. Okay, first of all, this FPS is really amazing. Just take a look at it. We are getting almost 60 FPS while emulating this game on a low-end Android device. The graphics resolution is also pretty low, but if you increase the graphics resolution the FPS will go down. So if you set the graphics resolution to let's say like 1x, then you will get only like 20 to 30 FPS inside house, and once you are outside house you will get like 5 to 10 FPS. But because we are using the 0.25 graphics resolution, it's not causing a huge strain on the CPU of this Android device. So let's exit our house. So you guys will be able to see after exiting the house we are getting almost 10 FPS in Snapdragon 4 Gen 1 processor. Now Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu is not really optimized game for Yuzu Emulator, and hence it doesn't work well in any forks of Yuzu Emulator. Even if I test it out on my Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor Android device, I only get like 25 to 30 FPS. So realistically we should be testing out Skyline Emulator, and I'm pretty sure that inside it we may easily get like 30 FPS on this device. But nonetheless, at least on the Nyushu Emulator we are getting almost 10 to 15 FPS in outside world scenarios, which is not that bad. So that was Nyushu Emulator testing on a low-end Snapdragon device. If you want best performance, then go with Skyline Emulator. With that being said, let's start testing out this emulator on a Dimensity processor. Alright guys, before we start testing out, there is an app known as CPU Float. So you will be able to see the CPU clock speed, and if it is maxed out then Nyushu Emulator is using the full capability of our Android device, but at least in the home menu you will be able to see it is pretty usual. Let's go to settings, and the settings which we'll be using is similar to what I just showed you guys. Limit speed percentage is turned off, graphics is set to 0.25x, and you can't really use a custom graphics driver on a Mali GPU Android device. With that being said, let's start testing out One Piece Unlimited World Raid and see how well does it works. Immediately you will be able to see the CPU float just disappeared because of the insufficient RAM, and as you will be able to see, the game doesn't boot on Mali GPU. These folk version of Yuzu Emulator have the same compatibility like the normal Yuzu Emulator, but just the fact that they will provide you with better performance. So let's test out Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and we'll find out the moment of truth. How much FPS can we get? So let's choose our controller type, and immediately you'll be able to see it's super fast. Like, just take a look at this. We are getting almost 120 FPS while emulating Let's Go Pikachu. Now let this cutscene be over and I'll be back. Now immediately you guys will be able to see it is much faster than what we saw with the Snapdragon 4 Gen 1 processor, and that is very logical because obviously Snapdragon 4 Gen 1 is a low-end processor, whereas MediaTek Dimensity 8100 is not that low-end, but still in terms of emulation Snapdragon always outperforms MediaTek. But here in the case of Nyushu Emulator, you will be able to see at the top left corner we are getting almost 80 to 90 FPS inside house, and if we test out normal Yuzu Emulator in both these devices, then I am pretty sure that iQOO Z6 Lite will easily beat the Redmi K50i. I used to only get like 5 to 10 FPS while emulating Let's Go Pikachu on this device in emulators that do not utilize the full potential of MediaTek processors. Anyways, let's exit the house and find out the FPS which we'll get. There we go, at the top left corner you will be able to see we are getting almost 30 FPS NCE Mali, and this FPS is more than what I literally get on my iQOO 12. Literally guys, you can watch any of my iQOO 12 gameplay test videos. Just take a look at this, 49 FPS, oh my god. During the open world areas, in the open world areas of Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, I have never seen this before in Yuzu Emulator, and it might be because of the resolution which we are using. 0.25 resolution on Mali GPU is perfection. And realistically, if you try out emulating Nintendo Switch games in other emulators, then you will only get like 3 to 5 FPS. So I am a bit surprised to see that in MediaTek processor, old MediaTek processor, I am getting more FPS than Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. That is indeed a bit surprising. Nonetheless, let me know in the comment section down below what are your thoughts on the Nyushu Emulator. Is it better than Xiang's? Does it run great on your own low-end Android devices? And in terms of thermals, obviously my device is not getting too hot, it's not overheating, so yeah, it's pretty safe considering the thermals. You can definitely go for it if you want better performance in MediaTek processor Android devices, and if you want the best performance on Snapdragon devices, go with the Skyline emulator. So yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, turn on all notification as I upload similar videos on my channel. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.